Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon, or good evening, or good morning, as the case may be. The Bill Crane Report is on the air once again with Chris Gleason and Dwayne Weiss.
Hi there.
And we're ready to bring you facts and opinions to entertain you and educate you. And first off out of the box, Dwayne has returned to me a book called The Nighttime Years, which I lent him.
Nightmare Years.
Nightmare Years. Yeah. Written, what did I say?
Nighttime.
Nighttime.
Close enough.
Close enough, but written by William Shirer, who wrote Rise and Fall of the Third Reich. I gave it to Dwayne to read, and I told him this is just flat out excellent book.
Yes.
And Dwayne just returned it to me and said, that was an excellent book.
Yeah, I learned a lot from that book. I read The Rise and Fall of the Third Reich.
Yeah.
You almost should read this one first.
It
explains a lot.
In the best of all worlds, yeah, it would be right to read this one first, yeah.
Mm-hmm. What's it about?
It's about his experiences in Nazi Germany prior to World War II.
1930 to 1940.
Yeah. And all the problems he had with censorship and trying to broadcast. And it gives you an idea of what a terrible life they were leading because of the Gestapo and all of the laws that had been passed to restrict individual freedoms, and also gives you a pretty good picture of the fact the people weren't exactly thrilled about all of this either.
Not at all.
Anyway, I have it, I own it, and if anyone would like to borrow it and read it, give me a call.
I did not know he was sort of one of the pioneers for broadcast.
Yes.
He and Edward R. Murrow, he just called him Ed Murrow.
That's right, Edward R. Murrow.
And they didn't, the media in this country weren't too sure about that. They were print oriented.
Exactly.
And they got the idea of maybe broadcasting it with radio.
Yeah, to bring the news instantly.
Yeah,
was something brand new on transatlantic radio, and it went from one station to another.
Yeah, they couldn't go straight over. No, they had to find these short waves and make steps.
Hopscotch their way to the United States. But I can remember hearing, and I can't remember who it was, but I can remember hearing on the news at my grandfather's house, whoever it was, this is London, reporting live, and it was really something. And now, heck, we shoot stuff around the entire world instantaneously.
So I assume you're interested in this book more than just for the historical value of it. You're thinking of it pertains to what we're happening today?
No. This is historical stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people say, how could things have happened that happened in Nazi Germany? And if you read this, you get a pretty darn good picture of how it all came to be.
I see.
And the cast of characters that Hitler surrounded himself with, to us, they're household names, but they were thugs and crooks and perverts.
Yeah, I mean, what we have to do is we have to go back to the early 20s. How did Hitler get himself a position of power?
Yeah, that's another thing.
Yeah,
really does well.
Do you know that there was no radio broadcasts or debates on politics? Television didn't exist. So there were speeches on street corners. And the different political parties would have their followers at a particular spot to hear a speech by a leader, and then the communists would come to try to break it up and beat them up, or the Nazis would come, or the national, one of the other parties, the Liberal Party, I think it was. But there was like 5 parties, and it was just who had the biggest army of thugs to beat the hell out of the other guys.
That's what they did, too.
Yeah. And that was the Putsch of 1923, when Hitler thought he had enough to take over Germany and tried to pull a power move down in Munich and ended up with time in jail. So all interesting stuff.
Okay.
By gosh, by golly. Okay. Something was said this morning on the news. Men buy, but women shop.
Right.
Is that true?
Absolutely.
See?
Certainly true in our house.
There's number one. Number two,
What do you mean, number 2?
you're both saying yes.
Yes, I agree with it.
Oh, okay. Well, at my house, it doesn't work that way.
Really?
No. My wife hates shopping.
Wow, that's unusual.
As a result, I do all the shopping. But even if we go looking for something, I don't want to walk around the stupid store. Just go get what you want, buy it, and get the hell out of there. So I'm the odd guy out here on this. I have to do the shopping.
Yeah, but it's the how you shop. Women go around and they go from shop to shop and shop and look. Men just go in and buy it.
Yep.
And I think that's what it is.
That's what you're saying. I don't. I have to go from shop to shop. And
Oh, you
compare
do?
them. Yeah.
Wow.
Watching me buy a car is interesting.
Oh, my
I'll tell
God,
you.
yeah.
All right, we got to the bottom of that. Now I'm going to help everyone at home. Okay? I happened to be watching one of the live cop shows over the weekend, and I found something very interesting. When talking to demons, move your hand up and down for yes, side to side for no. So there you are. When you're trying to communicate with a demon, up and down is yes, side to side is no.
Oh, I didn't know that.
See? That's stuff that you learn on this show. You're not going to hear that stuff on
No,
another
nowhere
show.
else.
No.
But I understand some cultures don't do that. Most people, this is no, but in some cultures, this is yes.
Oh, well, you're dealing with demons here.
Well, the people whose cultures do this for yes really better pay attention to that.
I think you're right. I think you've stumbled into the truth, Christine. And I have some advice for the people in our government. I'd like to remind the people in our government that are trying to sort out the North Korean problem. I'd like to remind them about perhaps rereading Madeleine Albright's autobiography, where she admits that she was hornswoggled by the North Koreans on the treaty, and she said, they broke their word to us. They lied to me.
Yeah.
How can a smart person possibly blunder into a mess like this?
Bill, there's a difference between smart and naive. That's the problem.
That's exactly right. James Baker would never have fallen for this.
But they've done psychological studies that show that you cannot 100% be sure when someone's lying and when someone's not. So I guess she should have been skeptical of everything.
Yeah. She was a very naive woman. Well, anyway, that's the advice to the folks in Washington. Remember what smart women, how they managed to mess up.
We're gonna find this to be true again with the Iran agreement.
So, with that in mind, I now once again challenge you both. Talk to me about the Korean Peninsula. What is going to happen here? What's the end game? It's quieting down. The rhetoric has quieted down. I think, well, I know what I think. I don't want to know what you guys think.
Well, first of all, I still think that Ung is crazy.
Oh, it's no
There's
question.
no question about it. He's a nutcase. But is he crazy enough to mutually assured destruction? Is he crazy enough to eliminate North Korea? And I don't think so. But again, the man he's a loose cannon.
I mean,
I don't think anybody can really tell what's going to happen there. I don't see a nuclear holocaust over it. We've got to get to China.
we have.
We've got to get a hold of China.
Okay.
And we got to say, China, Mr. China, you've got to do something on
Okay,
this.
now the Chinese newspaper in Beijing published an editorial. Now, that's, of course, a government newspaper.
Yeah, of course.
And this is a government editorial. But basically, what it said was, North Korea, you start something, you're on your own.
Yeah, well,
So
historically,
You mean,
that's been
who's on their own? North Korea,
Korea.
or U.S.?
North Korea.
what they have said is, North Korea, if you start something, you're on your own.
But I
Don't expect us to pull the fat out of
They've
the
said
fire
that
for you.
before with North Korea, not with Ung, but his dad and his
Yeah.
grandfather. They after a while they said, we're washing our hands of you.
Yeah, they've made it very clear.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's emboldening the United States. Now,
I don't think China's really on the side of the U.S. either.
they're on China's side.
Right.
Yes.
China's not a friend of this country. Don't ever assume that they're an ally. They're not.
But they also can see what's going to happen here.
Oh, yeah. And,
Now, supposing, okay, now, so this nutcake's reprisal to all of this was, we're going to fire off 4 missiles at Guam.
yeah.
If that were to happen, do we shoot those missiles down?
Yeah.
Do we shoot the next missile he fires down?
Well, internationally, I'm not sure we can if he's going to launch them into international waters and there's no warhead on them. You know, countries launch.
We don't know whether there's a warhead
don't know
there or
that,
not.
but do we?
I mean, when a bad guy pulls a gun out and shows it to a cop, the
is it-
cop can't say, wait a minute, I
is it
want to
real
look
or
at that
not?
gun, see if you got bullets in it.
But at the same token, he's launched missiles in the past, and we've not done
And
it.
now he's been told not to.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
in fact, the last ones he launched over China, over Japan. Actually flew him over Japan, but I don't know what the height. There's a height requirement after a while. It's not international
Right.
airspace anymore. It's like, you know, you can't call international airspace if you got a satellite that's going around the world.
I
Now-
think Trump would shoot it down. I really do. And I think if they can't do that, I was wondering if there's some way that they can manipulate the guidance of the missile that the Koreans shoot off.
Probably not,
You know, I
but
think-
they can shoot it down. And I think we're within our rights to shoot it down. If there is any way that that thing can head towards Guam, U.S. territory, he's threatened, I think you take it out.
I do too.
And that's a total break with the previous administration,
Oh, he wouldn't have done anything.
which would have run into the bedroom and hid under the bed until it all blew over.
But I think the leader of North Korea is sort of achieved part of his goals, because now he's got the attention of the world, and he's showing the big bad guy U.S. He's shaking it by the tail. So I think he's gotten the prestige or the notoriety or whatever you want to put himself on the map. And I think that's what he wants to do. He wants to act like a big power and see, I'm up against the U.S., so I'm a big power now. And I think his real goal is to get united with South Korea.
Well,
That's one
you
of
said a
China,
lot in that sentence, I'll tell you.
that's one of China's worries.
You don't have to agree with me, but I think that's
No,
what he
no.
would like to do.
In a way, I agree with you.
He doesn't want to get with them. He
look,
wants to own them.
The problem with North Korea is when you raise children and they're being bad, what do? They act out. And they want your attention.
Right.
And how they do it? They break things, they throw things, they yell, they scream, they holler, they jump up and down. This is what they've been doing for 20 years. And we've told them, as long as you're going to act like a moron, we're not going to have anything to do with you. The hell with you. We're not going to sit down with you. We are not going to go running to North Korea to sit down with you. And that is, I think, a lot of what you were talking about and what he's talking about or acting out. I want attention. I want you people to notice me. I want you people to react to me. So I'm going to be an irritant until you do.
Well, that was necessary because he came in as a nobody.
That's right. Yeah.
He started from zero. He's got to get himself.
Yeah. And he's threatened and bullied his way all the way along. And this should have
killed
been
his uncle
stopped.
and killed relatives, everything else to make him where he is. So there's no hold bar there at all.
No.
And I think he is, like Chris said, he has accomplished what he set out to do. He said, look at I can stand up to Trump, I can stand up to Obama, I can stand up to anybody.
Well, he certainly stood up to Clinton.
Oh, absolutely.
Clinton did nothing. George Bush did nothing. And Obama did less than nothing. So, I mean, he has to look at this and says, these three are American presidents?
This is easy.
They're wusses.
They're easy.
All three of them.
Yeah.
I can do anything I darn well please. And now all of a sudden, he's up against a guy that pushes back and says, there's a new sheriff in town, buddy. And the sheriff has got a gun with lots of bullets in it. So
we haven't had anybody that pushed back since Reagan.
That's right. Absolutely right. And John F. Kennedy.
Yep.
So how is this all going to work out? What's the end game here?
I think it's going to calm down. It's just going to.
Who's going to blink?
I think they're both going to blink.
Really? No, that's not the answer I wanted.
I know it, but I don't think it's going to start to get to the point where it's going to be a shooting war.
If we both blink, this situation is going to continue to go on.
Oh, it'll go on. Look at the Korean. Korea's never settled from the Korean War.
Right.
It's gone on and on and on.
Armistice has never been signed.
That's right.
The end of the war has never taken place.
China has to intervene because China is the key. China is the reason that North Korea survives. China is the trading partner. China keeps them fed, keeps them whatever they've got. If it wasn't for China, they would have withered up and died long ago.
Why is China want good relations with North Korea?
Two reasons. One, China does not want a unified Korea on their border. Because they rightly so, a unified would no doubt be a Western ally. They don't want the Western ally right on their doorstep. And number two, they're afraid of a complete refugee situation. If it came to the point where it got to a point where the battle starting between North and South, there's hundreds and hundreds of thousands of North Vietnamese that would be trying to North Korean rather, trying to get into China as a refugee. Now they have problems already, but you don't hear a whole lot about it. You know, they got really tight borders. They think you want to build a wall like Trump wants to build a wall in Mexico. They've got a wall already, but they're getting through it. There's a lot of North Koreans that are trying to get into China, and China does not want them.
I think you're absolutely right on both sides. The Chinese also, if you take a look at the upper crust of Asia, the Chinese, the Japanese, they regard the Koreans as a low subspecies.
Okay.
I can't draw the exact parallel I want, but if you go back a couple of hundred years in our history, it would be sort of Well, or the Indians, or India, the undesirables, the untouchables.
Okay.
And that's how they felt about the Koreans. And they, you talk to the Japanese. We did some business with the Japanese. They're up here, and the Koreans are down here. The Koreans are, they're laborers, and, but it's really, Korea has been a miracle since the Korean War.
Oh, yeah.
The way they have just
Modernized.
rocketed into the 20th century, into the 21st century. But they were never liked, and they were always looked down upon by mainstream Asia, if you will.
But Japanese used them for slave labor.
Sure. Absolutely. Yeah.
There's only one thing that to convince China to step in and do something is the difficult part, and their only Achilles heel, so to speak, is their pocketbook. They are very, very conscious of, say, the trade going down 10% or 6% or 8%, or their GNP starts to drop a little bit, simply because they now have a huge middle class that they never had before. They always had the way up here and a big mass way down here, nobody in the middle. Now this middle class has gotten cars, has got apartments, has gotten TVs, gotten, all the accoutrements of Western civilization. They don't want to irritate that group, because that group could turn that whole country over, throw that red Chinese, that old term red Chinese, that communist bureaucrats, throw them right the hell out of there.
Yeah, I think you said something very interesting right at the beginning when you said to expect the Chinese to step in and do something. They're not going to do that.
No.
No. What the best we can hope for, as far as I'm concerned, is the Chinese are going to say to the U.S., do what you must.
Yeah.
And then we have to do it. The Chinese are not going to do it.
Yeah, probably not.
If it were a perfect world, and if we could push the perfect buttons, we could say to the Chinese, will you kindly take him out of the running? Find a place for him, preferably about 6 or 7 feet underground, and that'll be the end of that. Well, I think the Chinese are too smart for that. Because did you watch the original movie Ghostbusters?
Oh,
Yeah.
many times.
That's great stuff, wasn't it? And remember when the guy from the EPA came and made him take the holding chamber and unleashed all the demons back into the world? I'm sure the Chinese have watched that movie also.
Oh, I'm sure.
And they're saying, if we eliminate him, it's like taking the lid off. What in the hell is going to come crawling out?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And how do we control it? So I hope that we're all looking 1 or 2 steps ahead before we do something. But by the same token, I hope Trump's not the one that blinks first. Because if he does, then all bets are off. They can do as they damn well please from that point on, I think.
Well, it all depends on what the North Korea leader does. If he doesn't do anything, then problem solved
Well, yeah,
temporarily.
but he said he's going to fire 4 more missiles.
Okay.
If he does,
Yes,
and he fires them towards Guam,
it's already due, because it was mid-August.
Yeah.
Yep, it's due now.
then I think I don't see him. He's too rigid. I don't see him taking a step back. But if he does, well, great for the short term. But all we've done is kick the can downstream because he's not going to become sane overnight.
Oh, no.
And we're going to be faced with the problem again. I've got something here that I alluded to a couple of times ago. The plastic bag with the smiling face. What is this guy smiling about? The plastic bag, and by the way, I'm not one of these nutcake green people. I'm sure you folks at home know that know me. This, it seems to me, is a problem that if we can't solve it, we really need to hang it up. I mean, this is like having a noose around our neck, continuing to produce these damn things. They pollute our waterways. They go in the ground and they stay forever. We don't do a very good job of bringing them back and having them recycled.
That's the problem.
So, what's the problem? How about you super brains down in Washington that are watching? They always watch our show, by the way. How about you super brains down in Washington sending this off to a think tank, maybe a bunch of 12 and 13-year-olds, and have it solved? Get rid of it and go back to paper if we must.
But actually, paper's, from a pollution standpoint, is more polluting than the plastic is.
No.
Producing paper
All right.
is more polluting than the plastic is.
But it's 100% biodegradable.
Yes, it is, and so could that be.
I like plastic bags.
I do
I
too.
recycle them. I use them for everything.
And if you take that plastic bag out of circulation, now most everybody anyway, uses them to line garbage cans, to this and that. Now
And
they
they
go
take
out and
it-
they buy new ones.
And they
They're-
take it
That's right.
all
That's
to the
right.
dump.
I would be forced to buy
And
them.
it goes into the landfill, plastic bag and all.
That's right.
And stays in the landfill forever.
But you're going to have something. If you don't have that, they're going to go to the supermarket and buy packages of garbage can liners, the same plastic.
Folks, do you know, have you watched The Lone Ranger on TV? And if you remember, there was just one ranger left. The Butch Cavendish gang wiped out the Texas Rangers. And there was just one ranger left. And he became the Lone Ranger. As you can see here on this panel, the Lone Ranger right here.
It's Tonto 1 and Tonto
That's
2.
right. And you guys, they're trying to wipe me out, but they won't do it. I still hate plastic bags. So there, both of you.
Yeah, wait till you bring a bag of garbage or a bag of groceries in a plastic or a paper bag, and it rips and falls all over the place.
I only use paper. And they know over the Roach Brothers. They're tired of hearing me tell them the story about where plastic comes from.
Oh, everybody knows what plastic
By the
is.
way, I mean, if you want to say that the paper processing business is foul and polluting, how about drilling for oil and bringing that up and refining it
course.
and then making it into plastic? So I mean, it's just brought us this long, I think. But
Well, we could go back to olden days where people brought their baskets from home, and when they went shopping, they filled their baskets.
do you know something? Even though you're tender years compared to Dwayne and I, you're wise beyond your years. The cloth bags
Yeah, we use
are
those,
my wife does too.
not because of plastic or paper or anything else, simply because they got nice handles on it and they're secure. When you got to bring the stuff in out of the trunk, you got something to pick up onto and carry it in.
When I was younger, I went to Scotland, and what they did there is, well, first of all, they had the meat man came around, but when they went shopping to get ice cream, they took a glass pitcher down to the store, and they filled the glass pitcher with ice cream, and then they brought it home that way.
How about when back at the turn of the century, when you were living in South Boston, and your father said, "Go down to the bar and bring me back a
Bucket
pail of beer."
Yeah.
The good old days. Well, I don't know. Well, all right.
Did you have something you brought in that you wanted to talk about today?
Go ahead. I did, but it's okay.
Oh, let's see what you have
I
to say.
want to see where he's going with
This
this.
is not a Democratic panel show.
I thought this was America.
Guess again. The news media, just when you think it can't get any worse, it does. the lies, the hatred, the vitriol is now officially off the charts. And it's fueled by one segment of our political population attacking the president. And the president, in his defense, I'm going to defend him now.
Not surprised.
Trump speak. That's what I'm going to talk about right now, Trump speak. He talks like he's having a couple of beers with his best buddies, and he's laying it out on the line. If you folks can't handle straight talk, if the truth makes you feel all icky inside, if everything has to be PC because you're so fragile and so delicate, then that's just too bad. Go to the cry room, get a puppy to cuddle, and suck your thumb, and think sweet thoughts like, no keeping score in youth soccer, so there are no losers. Repaint the world in pink and mauve tones, so that everybody thinks only good, kind, and mushy thoughts. And that wouldn't it be wonderful if Stephen Colbert could become president and would usher in a new era of glowing love with lots of giggling and tickling and loving, and we would all speak in muted tones as we stand around hugging each other. Then we can stand and cheer and cry tears of joy as President Colbert fires all the cops, because they're troglodytic knuckle draggers, fires all the military, because they're all sadistic killers, and ushers in a new era of candy kisses, ballet as the national pastime, and sweet love and joy breaks out all over the country as hugathons become the national pastime, and we throw all our weapons in the ocean, confiscate all the guns in the country. Won't it be wonderful? For about 10 days. Then the Russians and the Chinese and the Iranians and ISIS and the Taliban come, and America is reduced to a large, smoking, radioactive cinder, and all the savages dance on our graves. Yes, folks, that's the liberal, socialist, loving future. No room anymore for real men.
Nope. There's a movement about it, and there's a name for it, and it's called Antifa. Anti-fascist.
Yep.
movement. And they use that as a justification for anything they want to do. Censorship, lack of freedom of speech. It's for the good of the country. You see this, these speakers on campus, a certain group, either the students or a group of anarchists come in, shut them down, don't let them speak. And that's what they've actually got it's called an Anti-IFA is the name of the movement now. And they do just about anything they want and can think they can justify it.
Oh, yeah.
And that's somewhere what you were leading to there.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm not positive where we're headed here, but I'll tell you what. Over the weekend, we had a go-round down in Chancellorsville by some cavemen, and they were opposed by some ultra-liberal nutcakes, and we had a banging of the heads.
Yep, we certainly did.
I don't understand exactly what President Trump was supposed to have said to make everybody feel good.
I don't know either.
But boy, oh boy. But you know what? And I've used the analogy before, but you know, if there was a terrible car wreck and there was a little girl trapped in the car and the car had burst into flames, and President Trump ran over and pulled the little girl out, the headlines the next day would be, President Trump breaks little girl's shoulder.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I've said before, if tomorrow he found a cure for cancer, they'd find some way of criticizing
Oh,
him
yeah.
about it.
Yeah. Why didn't he
Why
do it
didn't he
10
do it
years
before?
ago?
Yeah.
Because he was too rich.
Yep.
Yeah.
I didn't care.
So, I don't know. But I do.
You have to admit he's not the most eloquent person around.
That's his problem.
I was watching a news conference with the French leader and him, and the news people were asking questions, and Trump's response was, yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, that's not presidential.
Okay, I was going to do this next week, but you recall Martin Luther King in his I Had a Dream speech?
Of course.
Well, I'm going to write one, I Had a Dream.
Okay.
And my dream was that I sat down with President Bush. I keep calling him that, President Trump. Mm-hmm. And he said to me, Billy, how am I doing? And I said, Mr. President, on immigration, you're doing great. Continue. Let's get going. Let's get strong immigration legislation. Let's get the fence built. On the stock market, on our economy, things are turning around. They're getting going. Okay? On healthcare, you guys are working on it, but you still can't get the pieces to go together. Keep working on it. A tax cut. We need a tax cut to repatriate the money that's overseas. Keep working on it. But Mr. President, knock off the tweeting. All right? Tweet with your friends, but don't tweet with the American people. And then he says to me, but Bill, this is how I have acted in business. And look at my success rate in business. And I look at him and say, Mr. Trump, President Trump, you're no longer in business for yourself. We have elected you to be our president. And we want you to behave like our president, speak like our president, and think before you speak. And sit down with Kellyanne Conway and tell her everything you want to say, and if she says it's okay, then you can say it. Otherwise, hold your tongue and get back to work.
Buy the man a filter. That's what he needs.
Yeah.
Just a filter.
That was my dream. Yep. Actually, you know what? I had a dream last night that my wife ran away. She was out in the car. She was picked up by two people here in town that we go to church with. They probably wouldn't want their names used, although there was nothing objectionable about it. They were just picking her up. They were all going to Alaska. And the cat was walking out to the car.
With his little suitcase?
I said to him, Harvey, I said, are you leaving me too? He says, yep, see you later. And he got in the car. That's when I woke up. I was surprised when I woke up this morning and my wife was still there.
Was Harvey?
Harvey's still there too. Yeah, he was sitting out by the cat bowl. He sticks around that till I feed him in the morning. But anyway, I have a tremendous change in subjects. The Indian health services in this country is abominable. There was a large article published in the Wall Street Journal. Do you know that we, as a country, are legally responsible for the complete care of all the health needs of 2.2 million Indians, Native Americans? They're in, by the way, 92% of the Indians polled by the Washington Post, I think it was, do not object to the word Indian.
That's right.
Just as some other people that do, yeah. The system has collapsed in some of the far-flung, often remote areas of Indian country, and this is set up similarly to the VA hospital healthcare system. The Indian healthcare system has failed to meet minimum U.S. standards for medical facilities. By treaties signed with the different tribes, the government is mandated to provide medical care to the tribal members. But because they're so dispersed that the mechanics of providing service is often difficult at best and alarmingly deficient at worst. An alarming amount of deaths due to late care, no care, or misdiagnosis and mistreatment have come to light recently as tribal members have become extremely vocal in their complaints. U.S. Senator John Barrasso was recently quoted as saying, "People are dying as a result of the care they're not receiving or the care they are receiving." The HIS, in their defense, say that we're handicapped by inadequate supplies, poor training, an overwhelmed staff, and critical positions left unfilled. This is interesting. The agency also adds they have lacked a permanent director since 2015.
They've lost what?
They've lacked a permanent director since 2015. I outlined some of this, but it's going to take too long. But there's a whole bunch of stories about people that have gone to hospitals to be treated, and in one case given some aspirins and said, "Go home," and he died at 10 o'clock that night. It is absolutely unbelievable.
Living here in New England, we have Indians, but we don't have Indians like Indian Territory, Midwest, the West, Southwest has. You can see some of the most abject poverty that you've ever seen. And things like they have an alcoholism rate that's phenomenal.
Off the charts.
Off the chart. I mean, and domestic violence. The old man gets drunk and beats the hell out of her, kills his wife, sometimes his kids too, and it hardly makes the news.
Yeah. You don't have to go to the Midwest to see it. You can go up to Eastport, Maine.
Or Maine too.
Yeah.
There's another.
And take a look at where the Passamaquoddy Indians live. It's horrible. In closing, would the people of Newton and Wellesley put up with the shoddy performance by the IHS? Would the wealthy inhabitants of Newton and Wellesley not be screaming to high heaven? And wouldn't there be all kinds of TV trucks from 4, 5, 7, 13, Nesson, all around the hospital? And wouldn't there be all sorts of plastic newscasters standing around blathering into their microphones, bemoaning the fact that good people are being treated poorly here? Secondly, how about grabbing some of these Doctors Without Borders people who travel the world helping others and send them to North and South Dakota and Montana and Minnesota? Right. And let's tackle this tragic situation. Totally unacceptable. And thirdly, let's pay for 250 doctors. Complete expenses for all medical room and board at college in totality. In exchange, they agree to work with IHS for a given amount of time, 6 years, let's say, at a reasonable salary. How can we afford to continue to ignore this problem? And yet, we do.
Nobody gives a damn.
That's right.
Nobody cares.
Do you know,
they don't have the advocates that the other minorities do.
Is this just another example of the old, they're only Indians? Or out of sight, out of mind?
That's out of sight, out of mind, I think. It's not exactly that they don't. When I say they don't have the advocates. They don't.
Bingo.
They don't have the one that's standing on day after day in front of television and we got to have this and we got to have that. Yeah. Other minorities got spokespeople. They don't have much for spokespeople.
Because there's no organization.
No, they had that one guy, and I forgot what his name is now. I even lost his name, but he was for a while, he was the head of the American Indian Movement, AIM. He spoke out. But you don't hear of AIM anymore.
I was in the Army with a guy, Jimmy Allen, and his father was an Indian agent in North Dakota. And he said, I lived on the reservation with him. He says, gosh, he said, I was good friends with a whole bunch of them. In fact, he says, there's some of them in here now with the, I think it was the whatever division was in training on our grounds. And Jimmy would greet them. Hey, Chief! Hey, Chief! Every one of them's nicknamed Chief.
Yeah.
But so I said, how was it growing up with the Indians, you know? So it's fine. He said, they're good basketball players. And he said, good baseball players. He said, they're good guys. But he said, then something happens. They get to a certain age, and it's like hitting the wall. He said, they're always all drunk. He said, it's tough, really tough. He said, my father worked all kinds of hours and just never seemed to be able to get ahead, you know, on the reservation. But anywho, shall we just tackle one more?
Sure.
I have a Peanuts column.
Okay.
So Linus goes up to his sister, Lucy, and says, I have a question. What would happen if there were a beautiful and highly intelligent child up in heaven waiting to be born, and his or her parents decided that 2 children were already enough? And Lucy says, without even turning around, your ignorance of theology and medicine is appalling. And then Linus just looks off into space and says, I still think it's a good question. I love that little bit. The Democratic National Committee chairman has said there is no room in the Democratic Party for pro-life Democrats. If you oppose abortion, you're not going to be a member of the Democratic Party. Is this a rather hard line for the Democrats to be drawing?
This is a major enigma. Because you look at the constituents, and you got South Boston, you got all Irish Catholic, Italian Catholic, all vote Democrat.
Yeah, because they're the old
they can
blue collar.
They can shut that other part right out and not even think about it. Look how many people Ted Kennedy was a god, for Christ's sake, to these people. There was no bigger abortion rights person than Ted Kennedy. But you'd say something about Ted Kennedy. Oh my God, he's wonderful.
Yeah.
But on Sunday you were whining and complaining about abortion. But come to election time, you vote for the very person that's going to advocate for abortion.
Tom Perez is the now the new chairman of the Democratic Party, and Bernie Sanders last week. Well, of course, this was a few weeks ago, but Bernie Sanders supported him. And this is, I don't see how this is going to work for the Democratic Party. I don't understand this. And some of them are walking away from this, but others are saying, you know, this is our party. This is what we've got to do. Perez made the issue non-negotiable for Democrats.
Yeah, that's a mistake.
Yeah.
You can't draw a line in the sand at this point. They're not in a position to draw a line in the sand.
No, he went on to say that he's strong-arming party members to step away from their conscience and not support the pro-life position anymore. I wonder, now, Nancy Pelosi came out and opposed him. Dick Durbin, the senator from Illinois, came out and said he opposes this guy. Well, how the devil did he get to be the chairman of the Democratic Party?
I don't know.
And Sanders, the abortion rights advocacy group NARAL harshly criticized Perez and Sanders for their politically stupid show of support for a candidate who had supported abortion restrictions in the past. I don't know. I can't believe that that's not going to hurt the Democratic Party.
Of course, it's going to hurt them. Any kind of restriction like that, you're going to lose certain supporters.
I have this little blurb about Governor Baker. He's introducing legislation to bolster the wiretap law so that we can listen in on conversations about other things beside organized crime and all. So I'm not so sure about that. I think it's all right, but I want to take it a step further. What do you feel about surveillance cameras?
I think in some places they're necessary, like a bank or someplace like that, but at Walmart parking lot where they have them, I think that's not necessary.
Well, I disagree. I think they're totally necessary for Walmart's parking lots, for example.
Yeah, on a couple of the police shows that I appear to be hooked on here occasionally, I mean, they showed one where it was a crowded club, and there was a little skirmish, and 3 people went outside. One of them had a .40 caliber pistol, and he walked up to the other 2 and punched, boom, boom, right in their faces, and was caught on the surveillance camera. And they had him within a matter of hours.
Yep. It's not like today you don't realize that there's cameras there. You know, I can see putting them in the ladies' restroom, for example. Or the locker room. You don't expect one there, and there shouldn't be one there.
Right.
But in an area like the Walmart parking lot or downtown Norfolk, someplace down in the intersection down here, there should be.
I think we need to be careful, but by the same token, I would rather have more surveillance cameras than fewer
yes.
surveillance
Just like
cameras.
today, there's an article in the paper about the towers, the gantries that record your license and pay tolls that way. Well, they haven't caught any bad guys yet. They've had seven times now they've put a word out that to watch for this car and that car, this car. They're like an Amber Alert. The last one, they had that alert out looking for that car. Okay, and they didn't get right away. There's two schools. One, the thing is worthless because it didn't catch anybody, which is just poppycock because they simply didn't use that road. And number 2, of course, the ACLU. It's a violation of privacy. But if the ACLU's relative was being the one kidnapped, and that car happened to go underneath that gantry and they caught him, best thing since sliced bread then.
This is not something new either. I was stationed in Germany from 63 to 65. I went under a bridge going too fast.
Yeah.
And we got a snapshot of my car and my license plate.
Absolutely.
And it was sent to the base. And of course, everybody laughed about it. They threw it away because we're not going to pay fines to the Germans, the GIs. But it showed me going like 65 in a 45 mile an hour zone or something like that. So, I mean, we had that 50 years ago.
Sure.
I don't have any problem with that.
I don't either.
Yeah. But the wiretap, listening in on conversations, I think we better know what it is we're listening in on and why we're doing it.
Yeah, I agree there.
And
That's
Governor
not-
Baker says, you know, we have to go to court and justify this the same as we do now. And on that note, I think our time's up, folks. So, want to wish you a very happy end of the summer.
Yep.
And we'll catch you again in a couple of weeks.
Okay, take care now.
Good night.